And you're watching Open. Thank you for staying with us. We turn now to the world of politics. The resignation of UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, Governor Cuomo leading in a campaign fundraising, and the newly confirmed Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. Just a couple of things we're going to discuss here on our political segment. We're pleased to be joined on the phone by Michael Benjamin, and Michael's the Associate Editor of the editorial page of the New York Post. And good to have you back, Mike.
Glad to be here, Daren. Good morning.
Good morning. Listen, let's get right at it. Of course, Nikki Haley's resignation coming as a huge shock to a lot of people. Mike, what are we to read into this? Because even though it's a resignation that takes place at the end of the year, is it because she has more political aspirations, or is it because we're just fed up with the president?
I don't know. I can't say she's fed up with the president. I would take her at her word. She says that it's time for her to move on. She's been in public life for 14 straight years. A member of the legislature in South Carolina, their governor, becoming the UN envoy for the United States, working in the Trump administration. I think she's done a solid job there. I think she's worked well. I mean, she didn't work well with the previous Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson. She's supposed to be working well with Mike Pompeo. Sometimes family comes first and want to move along. I mean, there are those that are saying, on the left are saying that there was a report out where she may have taken a trip on a private plane and may have gotten tickets to a basketball game that she didn't properly report, and the group wanted her investigated for any kind of ethics violation.
Yeah. Well, when you talk about Nikki Haley, one of the questions that came to mind was President Trump's recent visit to the UN. Of course, a lot of criticism given there, and how tumultuous that relationship is between Nikki Haley and possibly others after the president left, and the possibility she just doesn't want to deal with that anymore.
No, I don't think so. I mean, there's another report that I had forgotten that I had read last night, where I take out her word. She's been in office 14 years in public service, earning a public servant salary. She and her family, I understand, may have racked up some debts, and going into the private sector would allow her to earn money to pay down her debt. Mm-hmm. When you're a public servant, you don't really earn a lot of money. I mean, yes, you get a lot of public accolades, you get to go to events, but sometimes family comes first, and you have to do what's right for your family economically. I believe she's doing that more so than being out of sync with the president's foreign policy. I think she's represented him in the United States well at the UN when it comes to defending our allies, standing up to tyrants, putting pressure on the UN for sanctions against North Korea to get them to the table, talk about reducing the nuclear arms, and dealing with the UN General Assembly, which has had a history of over the last 20, 30 years of being heavily anti-Israel in many of the resolutions, and she stood up and she's pushed back against that, and that's won her praise.
Yeah, she's definitely talked about when it comes to the area of Israel. A lot of people have said because she took that stand, it really solidified her as a real legitimate leader. I want to go here for a minute, talk about Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. He's now been confirmed taking office, and the word from him is he is going to be a team player.
Well, I guess on the Supreme Court there are 9 members. I guess you're a team player when it comes to, working collegially. But when it comes to deciding on opinions, writing cases, you tend to go your separate way. You offer your legal thoughts about something, and then there's a vote. And then you can either be assigned, if you have a strong enough case, assigned to write the majority decision, or you can write your own dissenting opinion, work with others in writing a dissenting opinion. I find it interesting that the 4 law clerks he hired are all women.
Mm-hmm. Well, when you talk about Brett Kavanaugh, obviously the testimony will stand out for history, along with that of Clarence Thomas. Where do you rank that in terms of the whole testimony with Kavanaugh, the explosion? Where do you rank that in terms of I
would say I'm not that old, Daren, to be able to rank the Supreme Court nominees and their testimony at hearings. But Kavanaugh, in my opinion, he showed an ill temper when it comes to pressure, and I thought he was rather disrespectful towards a couple of senators who asked him some hard questions. And I know he was under pressure. He was feeling pressure. His reputation was being impugned. But you need to maintain your cool and calm, and that's supposed to be the hallmark of a sitting judge, to be able to keep emotions in check and to look at the facts of a case and make your decision and make your presentation. For that, I kind of thought he was disqualified in that regard, in being politicized, saying the attack on him was revenge for his work on the Clinton impeachment 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that showed that he has a political bent, and that does not bode well for the Supreme Court.
Before we let you go, what should we be paying attention to in the news from your perspective?
Well, what I would say, I just learned today that Governor Cuomo was out on Long Island supporting Democratic state Senate candidates. I understand that, according to the Gothamists, he had them sign a pledge where they would put pressure on New York City to pay its fair share on the MTA, I guess, when it comes to the subway and bus service, which is, I guess, his effort to try to gain leverage over the mayor. As you know, the mayor has said that New York City does pay its fair share, and they don't want to pay. The city doesn't want to pay any more. And now the governor's trying to get the state senate on his side, particularly suburban senators, who also pay into the MTA for their Metro North service. They want the city to pay more. So we'll see how it goes. The governor is continuing his sort of war with de Blasio and the city, and to me, that can't bode well. Even if you have a Democratic state senate, Democratic assembly, and you want all three branches, all three chambers with the governor to work together for the benefit of New York City, not to its detriment, or to carry out, continuing political vendetta against the mayor.
Yeah. All right, Mike, well, we got to leave it there. Thank you so much for sharing with us. Michael Benjamin, our guest here on Open, and thanks so much for sharing with us, Mike.
Thank you.
All righty. Taking a quick break. We got more show coming up. We'll be right back right after this.